So hey, what's up guys, this is AK, and you are watching my YouTube channel AKM. So guys, welcome back to a brand new tips and tricks video of PUBG Mobile. Most players think HIPFIRE is just about shooting without aiming down sight. But good HIPFIRE is much more than that. When an enemy suddenly appears around a corner, you do not have time to perfectly aim down sight, adjust your crosshair, and then start shooting. In that moment, your crosshair placement, tracking, movement, and shooting timing decide who wins the fight. And this is where many players struggle. They have good sensitivity, they can control recoil, and they can aim well while using the scope, but when the fight becomes extremely close, their shots start missing. So if you want better HIPFIRE, do not focus only on your sensitivity. You need to build the entire skill together. The first thing you need to fix is crosshair placement. Your crosshair should already be close to where the enemy is going to appear. This sounds simple, but it makes a huge difference. For example, imagine you are holding a building and you know an enemy is about to push through a doorway. Do not keep your crosshair pointed at the floor while waiting. Keep it around the upper chest or head level, depending on the situation. Now when the enemy appears, you only need a small adjustment before firing. That means less movement from your finger, faster shots, and better consistency. This becomes even more important when you are moving around corners. If you are running with your crosshair too low, then suddenly see an enemy, you have to move your aim upward before your bullets reach the target. That tiny delay can be enough to lose a close-range fight. So while moving through buildings, around walls, and near cover, keep your crosshair at the height where an enemy is most likely to appear. But crosshair placement alone is not enough. Once your crosshair reaches the enemy, you need to track them. HIPFIRE becomes much more difficult when both players are moving because your target is constantly changing position. A common mistake is trying to flick your crosshair onto the enemy and immediately moving your aim too far. Instead, make smaller corrections. Try to keep your crosshair attached to the enemy's upper body while they move left and right. You are not trying to predict every movement perfectly. You are trying to continuously follow the target. This is especially important against players who use quick strafes. If the enemy moves left, your aim should smoothly follow them. When they change direction, your aim should adjust with them instead of making a huge correction. And this brings us to one of the most important parts of HIPFIRE, your own movement. Good HIPFIRE is not about standing still and hoping your bullets connect. In close-range fights, your movement makes you harder to hit while giving you more time to keep your crosshair on the enemy. Use controlled left and right movement while keeping your aim on the target. But do not turn movement into random movement. If you are constantly changing direction without controlling your aim, you may make yourself difficult to hit, but you will also make yourself difficult to shoot accurately. Your movement and your aim need to work together. Move just enough to make the enemy adjust their aim, while keeping your own crosshair stable. Now there is another detail that separates good HIPFIRE from bad HIPFIRE: shooting timing. A lot of players start shooting the moment they see the enemy, even when their crosshair is not properly placed. That creates a spray where the first bullets are already missing. Instead, try to make your first bullets count. As you encounter the enemy, bring your crosshair onto the target and then commit to the spray. You do not need to wait for a perfect headshot. The important thing is that your crosshair is close enough to the enemy before you start firing. This becomes extremely useful when fighting around corners. If you swing around a corner and immediately panic spray, your crosshair may still be moving toward the enemy. But if you control the swing and keep your crosshair where the enemy is expected to be, your first bullets can connect much faster. Now let's talk about weapon control. HIPFIRE spread is affected by the weapon, distance, movement, and the way you are using the gun. This is why you cannot use exactly the same HIPFIRE style with every weapon. Some weapons are much more comfortable in close range, while others become less reliable as the distance increases. For automatic weapons, focus on keeping your crosshair around the enemy's upper body and controlling your horizontal movement. Do not try to force a perfect headshot during every close-range fight. If the enemy is moving quickly, consistent body shots can be much more reliable than constantly dragging your aim up and down. And remember, HIPFIRE is strongest when the enemy is close. As the distance increases, the spread becomes more important, and aiming down sight can become the better option. So do not turn every fight into a HIPFIRE fight. If an enemy is only a few meters away and suddenly pushes you, HIPFIRE can give you the speed you need. If the enemy is further away and you have enough time to aim, using the appropriate sight can give you better control. Now we can combine everything with jiggle movement. Jiggle and HIPFIRE work well together because you are constantly changing your position while keeping your crosshair on the enemy. But there is an important difference between useful jiggle and useless movement. Your goal is not to move as fast as possible. Your goal is to make the enemy miss while keeping your own shots consistent. Use short and controlled movements. If you are fighting someone around a doorway, for example, you can move out, keep your crosshair on them, fire, and adjust your position as they react. Do not spam movement so aggressively that your own crosshair becomes unstable. The better your aim becomes, the more controlled your jiggle should feel. Now let's talk about some common mistakes that can completely ruin your HIPFIRE. The first is keeping the crosshair too low while moving. The second is spraying before your crosshair reaches the enemy. The third is using excessive movement and losing control of your own aim. Another mistake is trying to HIPFIRE at distances where aiming down sight would clearly be better. And one of the biggest mistakes is changing sensitivity constantly. If you keep changing your sensitivity every time your HIPFIRE feels bad, you never give yourself enough time to build consistent muscle memory. Instead, choose a comfortable setup and spend time practicing the same movements. A simple way to practice is to enter a training area and focus on one skill at a time. First, practice keeping your crosshair at chest level while moving. Then practice tracking moving targets without shooting. After that, add HIPFIRE while moving left and right. Finally, combine everything and practice reacting to targets that appear from different angles. The goal is not to simply shoot more bullets. The goal is to make your crosshair movement, tracking, movement, and shooting happen naturally at the same time. That is what makes HIPFIRE feel fast. So when you are in your next match, remember this. Good HIPFIRE does not start when you press the fire button. It starts before the enemy even appears. Your crosshair placement prepares the shot. Your tracking keeps the crosshair connected to the enemy. Your movement makes you harder to hit. Your shooting timing makes the first bullets count. Your weapon control keeps the spray useful. And your jiggle movement helps you survive the fight without destroying your own aim. Once these skills start working together, close-range fights become much more controlled. You stop relying on panic spraying, and you start making your HIPFIRE a deliberate part of your gameplay. So guys, that was all for today's video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more PUBG Mobile tips, aiming guides, movement tutorials, and practical gameplay advice that will help you improve faster. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.